Limited, and I am your host for today's session. As we all know, India is marching strongly on the Aatmanirbhar path to be self-reliant on the clarion call of our Honorable Prime Minister. The defense sector, which is identified as a core sector for Make in India, is tirelessly working towards achieving 1.75 lakh crores of annual turnover and 5 billion US dollar of exports by year 2025. As India is moving on with the modernization of its armed forces, a prominent gap that remains and has been acting as a significant obstacle is the inability to design and develop wholly indigenous modern aero engines, which account for about one-third of the cost of the system. Therefore, under the Aatmanirbhar Bharat initiative, there is a thrust on achieving self-reliance in aero engines for its existing fleet and upcoming programs. In the seminar today, we will get an opportunity to understand the possibilities and challenges in this sector from the eminent personalities from the domain and industry experts. With this background, now I request Colonel K.V. Kuber, Director Aerospace and Defense, Ernst & Young, and member ASSOCHAM, for his opening remarks. Sir.
Mr. Mahapatra, धन्यवादः. महोदयः, सर्वे जनाः, जननीयः, नमस्कारः. In pure Karnataka terms, namaskara, and welcome to this afternoon's exciting session on Aeroengines India, an engine of Aatmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you, Mr. Mahapatra, for setting the stage of this. On behalf of ASSOCHAM, I need to tell you that ASSOCHAM is the knowledge architect of corporate India. And it is an evolution value creator. The initiative was initiated way back in the 1920s. ASSOCHAM has got more than 400 channel partners, 400 chambers and associations, and serving more than 4.5 lakh members pan-India. ASSOCHAM has witnessed upswings and upheavals in this long journey of 100 years, as ASSOCHAM celebrates 100 years. It just celebrated last year. And in the 101st year, having witnessed these upheavals, it played a catalytic role in the emerging Indian economy. It emerged as a fountainhead of knowledge and derives the strength from its member associations. It's got more than 100 national councils. Well, we can go on, but the point here is, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to this wonderful session on aero engines. And this is where I wanted to quote what our scholars have said in the Rig Veda. Swadeshe pujyate raja, vidwan sarvatra pujyate. What it means is, Swadeshe pujyate raja. A king is worshipped only in his own country, in his own state. Vidwan sarvatra pujyate. If you have invested yourself in knowledge, you will be acknowledged globally. India as a nation has been acknowledged globally by almost all the countries for the treasure of knowledge that has been passed on from generations to generations. A glimpse of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata will tell you that we had all those missiles which humankind is unable to comprehend till date. So we used to see these serials, we used to imagine, a rishi who could come there, close his eyes, and he gets a missile in his hand, and it could be a type of a missile that he wanted, a missile for a purpose. Then I was trying to read, is it fiction? Is it an epic? And the naysayers will immediately tell you, oh God, that's an epic somebody imagined. But somebody imagined it 5,000 years ago. It cannot be an epic. It was there. And that, the reality is one is seeing today. If you have to invest in knowledge, you have to invest in systems. You have to invest in the tier 1 companies. You cannot bring systems from all over the world and just say, I am an integrator. You should say that I am the designer, I am the manufacturer. Yes, I believe in global outsourcing and I will do it. And that's the way we need to evolve. And for this wonderful session, we have an excellent panel over here. And I have great pleasure in welcoming Mr. Salil Gupte. Salil is a visionary. Salil is a person who can think beyond the horizon. Like you have those over-the-horizon radars. He's one of them. And he's the chairman of the ASSOCHAM National Council on Aerospace and Defense. Salil, floor is all yours.
Namaskaru, and thank you so much, Colonel Kube. By the way, I think it's beyond line of visual sight, but I'll take over the horizon. Look, engine technology is a partner with the rest of the aircraft in a marriage that drives efficiency and capability for our customers in both civil and defense aviation. So for some of you who may have heard me speak earlier in this week, you may have heard me talk about the importance of civil and defense aviation synergy. And I won't go into those comments in detail here, but largely it was around many different areas: manufacturing, MRO, sustainable aviation fuels, and the like. But engines are an example of that synergy opportunity, because so many of the technologies and materials, advanced composites, ceramics, others that go into one engine technology for a defense aircraft or civil can go into the other. And that's very important because it drives cost and operating economics for our customers, whether they're civil or defense. I think a lot of times we as OEMs, we get hung up on the operating costs and fuel burn for our civil customers. Guess what? We are in a constrained environment. Yes, the capital budget was increased in the latest defense budget, but operating is looking tight. Operating is important to keep in mind, and maintaining those costs at a low level are just as important to governments, not just in India, but around the world, as they are to our civil airline customers. So how does that affect this marriage between the engine and the airplane from the standpoint of an airplane OEM like Boeing? Boeing is responsible for integrating the engine onto the aircraft in a safe and efficient manner. And we all know that the engine plays a very large role in the cost and the performance of an airplane. So let's take a walk back, and we'll start with the civil side, I guess, or actually, in the interest of time, I'll just use that as my example. Welcome, Ashmita. Think back to our civil aviation products like the revolutionary 787, introduced for its first flight just about 10 years ago. Or first delivery 10 years ago, first flight 11 years ago. Think about aircraft that are related to ones we've built in the past, like our new 777X that will be delivered in 2023, but has a brand new wing made of composites on it. Those are revolutionary technologies from an airplane OEM side, incorporating the latest materials for the airframe, electrical systems, avionics, what have you. But of course, that's the groom. The groom needs a bride. And the bride is the technology that was brought by our engine partners. On each of those revolutionary products, the 787 or the 777X, our engine partners, in the case of the 787, Rolls-Royce or GE, in the case of 777X, GE, brought engines that incorporated new technologies, new materials to provide unmatched efficiency and performance. And you could not have had those new products with one or the other. Our customers would not have paid for a new product that just offered a new fuselage. Similarly, they won't pay for a new product that just offers a new engine. There have to be a myriad of improvements made or revolutionary elements added. And that is where this partnership with engines, with our engine OEMs comes in. That is why we spend so much time with our engine partners on the development, on their development of new technologies and how that affects the overall operating cost of the airplanes, again, for defense and civil. That is why we take such great interest in their research and development activities and their continued innovation in places like India. And that is why I'm speaking here today, because I'm genuinely interested in how the engine OEMs want to leverage Indian capability to take aerospace to the next level, not just in India, but globally. Boeing is committed by 2030 to have our aircraft operate 100% on sustainable aviation fuel. Because we, as the aviation industry, civil and defense, have a duty to environmental sustainability. Boeing will not be able to achieve that mission on our own. We will need the cooperation and the innovation of our engine partners in achieving that sustainability goal. And that's true for not just Boeing, but for the entire aviation industry. And it is our belief that the capability, the technology development, the inventiveness, and the innovation that is being done here in India by our engine partners today will allow us to achieve those goals together. So with that, I'll turn it back over. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your thoughts. It was wonderful to listen to you, and you have set the tone for the seminar. To have the perspective of the industry on the subject, we have with us eminent panelists, and I invite our first speaker, Mr. Brett A. Medlin, F-21 India Program Lead, Aeronautics Strategy, Business Development, Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Company.
Thank you. Feels good to take my mask off for once. I appreciate the invitation to be here. It's certainly an important subject. I know as my purview, the F-21 campaign lead for Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Strategy and Business Development, that aero engine technology is of critical importance, specifically, again, in my purview, to the Indian Air Force, and as mentioned earlier, their requirement for additional fighter aircraft, given their depleting force structure. So with that, I'll get in. First, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to both the US ISPF as well as ASSOCHAM for putting on this event and inviting me to it. Also, I'd like to thank Government of India, Ministry of Defense, and everybody involved in putting together what I would say is a very successful Aero India 2021 amidst all the difficult challenges. Myself and my team couldn't be more impressed with the way that this has gone and been executed. So India is a critical partner for Lockheed Martin. We have an established defense and aerospace footprint in the country that spans for more than 3 decades. We're fully committed to meeting the Prime Minister's vision of self-reliance and Make in India through supporting growth of the indigenous defense ecosystem, advancing the aerospace and startup ecosystem, and strengthening India's strategic security and industrial capabilities. Overall, to date, we've had $600 million worth of net exports that have been established by our joint ventures and integrated over 70 Indian companies in this effort. This commitment to India is evident for our F-21 offering. F-21 is exclusively configured for the Indian Air Force's requirements, as well as the engine to satisfy its aerodynamic requirements as well. So in general, like I said, aero engines are critical to the success of any fighter aircraft. As my Boeing friend over here had reemphasized, to reinforce this fact, and again, how critical it is, it's actually the first part of any design of the aircraft. So you start with the engine, and then sequentially you go on from there. Aero engine selection will be critical to the future of Indian industry, realizing the government of India's vision for self-reliance and indigenization, while equipping the Indian Air Force with the capabilities I had mentioned before that are sufficient to deter and defeat today's and tomorrow's adversaries. GE, who is our aero engine partner on the F-110. I saw my colleague that I had a conversation with just earlier this morning, who was on the virtual panel. They're also fully committed to India. They have a large presence in both commercial as well as expanding their defense presence as well. The engine on offering for the F-21 is the F-110-129D. It powers over 1,600 fighter aircraft across the world today and has accumulated over 10 million service hours, or flight hours, should I say, on the F-110 class engine. So, as mentioned before, from an operation and sustainment cost perspective, for a single engine versus twin engine, the single engine's always less. Lockheed Martin analysis has shown that operating costs can be as low as 25 to 30% over the life cycle of a platform operating a single versus a twin engine aircraft. And this means that the F-21 outperforms competitors when it comes to cost effectiveness for defense budgets, which we all know that the Indian military is rapidly, which is great to see the capital acquisition budget go up, as announced a couple days ago, around 18 to 19%, but the demands across the services from modernization standpoint is still putting pressure on the budget. So when you look at the life cycle cost of the platform, it is of critical importance. When it comes to overall maintenance, operating and sustainment costs, single engine platforms leave their twin engine counterparts far behind. A fleet of single engine fighters will always cost less in terms of both time and money than a fleet of twin engine fighters. Maintenance costs, spare parts, tooling, and on-the-ground service times are always less for a single-engine fighter. Furthermore, for the F-110 class engine, with GE, via its modular architecture, via its shop-replaceable unit concept, enables maximum maintenance flexibility, which can be accomplished at the organizational, i.e. the flight line, or the intermediate, i.e. the engine shop levels, reducing the need for depot-level scheduled visits, which ultimately means more time for the pilot to operate that aircraft. Safety, and I know I've got a lot of questions about safety on, talk about aero engines and single engine versus twin engine. Pilot safety is paramount in a fighter jet. Some may argue, as I just mentioned, that twin engines are safer than single engines. But the realities are that today's U.S. manufactured engines, like GE, are more reliable and safer than ever before. This is evident in the 129 engine, which has had, in its history, since the mid-1980s, 0 Class A mishaps, which means no failures, 0 flameouts, and 0 stalls in its history. Furthermore, GE's proprietary laser shock peening process, it's technical mumbo jumbo, I recognize that, greatly increases the tolerance for foreign object debris or bird ingestion, which I know India's got a lot of birds, and we've gotten a lot of questions about that, and they're pretty big birds. But the technologies ultimately that have evolved over time and been incorporated into these engines have made them safer than ever. Not only that, but single-engine jets tend to be smaller, lighter, and better optimized from an aerodynamic perspective, improving survivability in aerial combat. The capability. A single engine doesn't mean a reduction. Single engine aircraft does not mean a reduction in capability. The single engine performance of the F-21 can support any mission the Indian Air Force would pursue, carrying equal payload to that of its twin engine jets. A single engine fighter, owing to its lighter weight, can in many cases have better thrust to weight ratio for outstanding maneuverability and acceleration. Furthermore, conformal to fuel tanks of the F-21 would increase fuel and added range without sacrificing the aerodynamic performance of the jet. In closing, I would like to thank everyone for pulling this together. Again, a tremendously successful Aero India 2021. It's my view that the future of Indian industry and Indian air power resides in the domains of providing effective aero engine solution in terms of cost, safety, reliability and maintainability, and capability. Thank you for your time, and please enjoy the rest of this seminar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Sri H.G. Chandrasekhar, Chairman and Managing Director, SASMOS HET Technologies, for his address.
First of all, thanks ASSOCHAM for giving me this opportunity to talk about this. It's a very, I would say, a very important subject that we are trying to deal with in today's situation for our own self-reliance as Indians. Being an entrepreneur, being an industrialist, and then being in the industry of aerospace from last at least 15 years, I see the seriousness of the need of an engine being made in India, not just for the usage of Indian requirements or for the global business alone. It is also for the technology self-reliance to state ourselves as industry, which has really stood up to the rising India requirements of technical space, that we can really share the same chair with the rest of the world, especially the Western advancement that has happened. So when I started really looking into this engine as such, because this is not my specific subject that where I come from, but basically I come from a lot of associated parts for engines. And then we really did it in different ways. Already, if you look at India as such, when I started studying the engine in a breakup of what it is, yes, it's a very high-end technology requirements. It's really driven by the whole Western world for such a long period of time to master it, manage it, and then also actually grow along with that. It's the right time that where India is in a good situation to start up this, but why are we not starting? What is the really stopping us? Because when I study this, we see that actually, yes, we have most of the capabilities which is established in the different domains, not in the aero engine, available as an ecosystem, which is really thin spread and not focused on to this particular subject, purely because it is actually, there is no visible demand. As an industrialist, if anybody wants to start something to take a chance and put a risk and then actually make it happen, how do we really actually look at this as a real demand in this dynamic situation for such a high-end expectations of a performance? It's a high risk, very high technology, and then high investment, and then a very big ecosystem. When I started reading some numbers, just I'm sure it's approximation, there are something like almost more than 45, 50 systems which gets into an engine. And then there are more than actually 5,000 parts and 500 different
vendors who are working for A engine, which I studied. And then actually, I think it's a real technology towards really capabilities of machining and managing the precision towards very high-end metals. And then this is the heart of the aircraft, what really does, so we cannot take any chance. So obviously, yes, in the last 10 years, I see in the aerospace domain, I'm sure the people in DIAS and also the respective people across the world recognize that India is catching up with the expectations of the aerospace requirements. And then it's a lot of things have been done in different thin spread way in India. Today, the time has come where I think there is a need for the government and the rest of the OEMs like Boeing, Lockheed, and etc. to put up a real intention to say that I can source these engines through my engine OEMs in India, as this is a number. That's the first thing that actually I think which kicks off as a business case, point number one. And the second thing is, I think it requires a policy to ensure that how do you protect and create an ecosystem which really drives the private and public participation together in terms of OEMs and bringing the best of the world. For example, when I went through some of the details, my own, in fact, actually a very critical missile and then the aircraft harnesses making with my friends in GKN, they're already doing a lot of engineering back office and the engineering design work for the changes in the engines for their Volvo engine, as I understand, within Bangalore. And then there are certain knowledge acquired during this particular process, even in some set of, I would say, starting point of making it happen. But this is how it was about some 15 years back if I see in any part making in India for any aircraft. But now I would request and then ask that actually I think to entrepreneurs to come up and then actually work with the entire team of the policymakers, and then the OEMs should also encourage to start actually putting certain things on paper to really look at this as a project. So it's a mission right now rather than just as a business. So can we put through this particular seminar, is it possible to request and then put up a combined heads together, this as a mission statement for the engine drive in India for aircraft engines, which really connects the industry, connects all the experts across the globe, and generate interest in the engine OEMs, and then also actually create a value proposition to the end customer and the quality drives. So this is exactly actually, I think, a mission statement which I would be more than happy to participate, and also actually, I think, create a mission statement to engine making out of this Aero India, which can create a really maybe after 5 years, if you imagine, we already started actually rolling in, making in some of things. For example, I'll tell you, I also know some companies which are really doing the parts for Pratt and Whitney from Bangalore for engines. So, in fact, it's there, but we are not there as engine makers. It's there in small parts. But yes, and what we are doing is maybe just about a 10% of the whole thing. But in reality, this is not an impossible state of affairs after 10 years. It's already maybe done. But the real first step and the inertia that we have right now to move is because of an absence of a mission statement. It is because of actually an absence of a supporting system which really creates this ecosystem and harness it together as an ecosystem to come together to build an engine. What's required to be done to make this within certain time frame? See, this is exactly where I would say that actually I think Indian industry, entrepreneurs, and then including the defense ministry, and then in addition to that, I think civil aviation. One of the thought which was coming to me as I was actually going through was also that how do you create this demand for, and why this has not happened? Because there is no specific need of an engine today to buy an aircraft as a specification required by the country, which they can make. Because, yeah, there are 100 varieties of engines, which are really very high-class engines that are being made, and so on and so forth. But what is that we as Indians decide that actually this is the engine that actually I think we should be proud of building this up and then also making this flying into the system. For example, when we took as a mission, it took almost 20 years, in my opinion, for bringing up the satellite industry into a level of actually where we are right now across the globe. And then, if I may say so, that actually today it has become a big industry, and the private industries are participating so much as a part of it. So this is because it took as a mission, then converted it as a business, it is becoming, or it has already become a business in many cases. This is not new to us, but as a concept, but as an engine, can we really drive this in the method and then with a consortium approach with plenty of the players who are there, and then we are trying to catch up. So I would call it as, because it is not a startup India, because actually this cannot be started like that. This is not a make in India, because actually this is not going to be just a manufacturing and creating jobs and then also creating cost reduction. But this, I would say, it's a rising India. It's a rising Indian requirement where you come on par with the world and then also become a major supply chain and the technology partner along with that. And it should be a win-win situation to the entire consortium approach. So a mission statement, a consortium approach to bring the speed, to bring up the speed, and then also actually getting this onto the ground, because I'm talking from the ground reality is, as an entrepreneur, as an industrialist, I don't see a need of an engine today as a purchase order somebody can cut, because it's already available somewhere else. So the issue is, it's a mission and we need to do it. There is no doubt. This is the first step for many steps that we are going to do. So this is what I would say, that actually request the whole DAS and the dignitaries and then also the government to really look at it as, with a belief we'll set up a mission statement together and then move on. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, sir. I welcome our chief guest, Dr. Ajay Kumar, Secretary Defense, Government of India, to the dais. Thank you for joining us. Now I request Shri Jayesh Ranjan, IAS, Principal Secretary, State Government of Telangana, to kindly deliver his address, please. Sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Respected Secretary Defense, Government of India, Dr. Ajay Kumar, senior representatives of the aerospace and defense industry, distinguished members in the audience, participants, very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to thank ASSOCHAM for giving opportunity to states also to participate in such an important deliberation. And as the topic rightly says, Aeroengines in some ways is really the essence of Aatmanirbhar India. If you are able to design, if you are able to manufacture at scale and show it to the rest of the world, the prowess that we potentially possess, this will be a very strong Aatmanirbhar message. And I say so because the experience of companies who have started manufacturing engines in India has been very, very positive. I do not see so far representatives from two companies who have set up their manufacturing facilities in Hyderabad, GE and Safran. So I'll speak on their behalf because I interact with them quite regularly. And I can tell you the bottom line that both of them are extremely, extremely satisfied with the kind of opportunity India provides. In fact, I recall when the GE engine manufacturing facility was inaugurated in Hyderabad, I think that was 3 years or maybe 4 years ago. I was present during that inauguration, and unfortunately I forget the name of the dignitary. He perhaps headed the APAC for GE engines. He was there, and just before the ceremony, we were chatting with him, and he told us something very startling and something very informative also. In fact, he told us that a couple of years before, and this was 4 years ago, he told us that a couple of years before, if GE were to ask to set up an engine manufacturing facility in Asia, of course, India would not have figured in their list at all. And he was frank enough to confess to us that the best that we could have looked at Asia would have been Japan or Korea. because they believe that the engine manufacturing is so sophisticated, so refined. India will just not have that skill sets which is required for that kind of manufacturing. But when they learned that there are so many other American companies, global companies who are setting up aerostructure manufacturing so successfully, that kind of gave them a confidence, and they took about a couple of years to study how is the talent ecosystem in India. And when they realized that so much is happening in Hyderabad, examples of Lockheed and Boeing and Sikorsky and so many others, they took that leap of faith and set up their unit. And that unit is today very, very thriving, very flourishing. Another global example is that of Safran. Safran also, some of you would be aware, have set up their engine manufacturing facility in Hyderabad. This is a nice coincidence. The LEAP engine, as many of you would know, a large portion is contributed by GE, another big portion is contributed by Safran, and both have set up their manufacturing facility in Hyderabad. So goes on to show that it is only a matter of attitudinal change, some kind of a mental block, that India is not yet ready for these kind of sophisticated manufacturing, refined manufacturing, but the reality is quite otherwise. And progressive states like Telangana can potentially give you a very strong value proposition. I already mentioned about talent, which is available in plenty. We also have a program. The state government, through its own cost, runs a skilling program through a dedicated institution called TASK, the Telangana Academy for Skills and Knowledge, that if you require people with a particular kind of skills, and if those skills are typically not taught in our engineering colleges or polytechnics, we would be willing to invest in creating that kind of courses, create that kind of skilled manpower completely at government's cost, and make those people available. So Safran incidentally has used this facility. GE did not, but Safran has chosen to partner with the government and get this kind of a trained and skilled manpower. More or less, we also have very good infrastructure. Our aerospace parks are strategically located. They are all very short commute from Hyderabad city. So you can live in the most livable city in the country, have a short commute, find good talented people, enjoy good infrastructure. State government also provides a very handsome and an attractive package of incentives. And since the Union Defense Secretary is here, my request to him would be, sir, you were earlier in the electronics ministry, where you have really spearheaded, you were in the IT ministry, and you have really spearheaded electronics manufacturing in our country. And through your efforts, these schemes like the PLI, performance-linked incentives, have been introduced. Maybe this is the best opportunity for us to look at a PLI kind of a scheme for Aeroengines also, which will bring a further boost to this sector. Hyderabad also has a good amount of training facilities for Aeroengines, both Pratt and Whitney, since Ashimaji is here, and CFM, both have long-standing engine training facilities in Hyderabad, and not just Indian candidates. Candidates from across the world come there and receive training. Successive batches have passed out of that institution. There are many players who are keen on setting up an engine MRO in India, and we are in advanced discussions with quite a few of them. So, as other speakers have also pointed out, as Colonel Kuber mentioned, this can be the real kind of a test case for the success of Aatmanirbhar India, and with a supportive national government, progressive state governments like Telangana's, OEMs who are looking at this opportunity for a long time to come. A few of them who have already taken the leap of faith and have demonstrated how easy and how seamless it is to do this kind of a manufacturing in India, not just for the Indian markets, for the rest of the world also. This is the best time for us to give that final push and become a leader in Aeroengines dimension also. Once again, very grateful to the organizers for giving me this chance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insightful words. ASSOCHAM and Ernst & Young have jointly prepared a knowledge paper on Aeroengines, an engine of Aatmanirbhar Bharat. I take this opportunity to request the virtual unveiling of the same in presence of our Secretary Defense, Dr. Ajay Kumar. Thank you, sir. Oh, fine.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it could not have been better. At any point in time, to have a person other than the Defense Secretary of India to be a part of a growth story which will be unparalleled globally. One has seen the Defense Secretary from his days in the Ministry of Telecom and the revolution that has taken place in telecom. At a point in time, we were the telecom, the electronics bill was exceeding the fuel bill. And that's the time he was in the Ministry of Electronics, and how he revised all those schemes that have come across, and we have seen a revolution taking place over there. And when he took over as the Secretary of Defense Production, I'm a witness, an eyewitness and an ear witness, and a happening witness, because I used to see the industry bubble with energy to come forward and say, okay. So there was never a moment where he would say, I will consider or I will think. He said, yes, let's do it. And that was the spirit with which he took off. And I'm extremely happy and proud, ladies and gentlemen, to have the honor of Dr. Ajay Kumar over here. And in his presence, in the presence of Dr. Ajay Kumar, the Defense Secretary of India, I'm happy to announce that ASSOCHAM and the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, are jointly organizing Indo-Pacific Defense and Security Exposition and Conference from 18th to 20th March 2021. I'll request all of you to join from wherever you are. It's a virtual expo, it's a virtual exhibition. It's going to be one of the best strategic conferences that we're going to see. And as we are seeing, the world is witnessing one of the best expos in this pandemic. You're going to see a great expo in the Defense and Security Expo from 18 to 20 March, and all of you are welcome. With this, ladies and gentlemen, I have great honor to welcome Dr. Ajay Kumar, for whom all of you have been waiting for, to unfold his vision, which he came with, and the mission statement that he has given to the ministry. And today, I'm happy to announce and happy to say that you're seeing most of the fruits of the seeds that you have laid. There will be some which will take a little longer, but I'm sure we have seen most of it. We have seen the reforms. We have seen the export controls eased off. We have seen the industrial licensing eased off. We have seen, we have seen everything that's possible. So now I think we cannot ever say the government is not doing enough. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ajay Kumar.
Good afternoon, friends. I must first of all thank Colonel Kuber for the excessive praise which he has given, and I don't think I deserve it all. But thank you nevertheless. More importantly, thank you for having me here on this ASSOCHAM seminar on Aeroengines. I think it's an extremely pertinent topic. But before that, I would like to say that ASSOCHAM has been one of the very active industry organizations as far as defense and aerospace sectors has been concerned. I have been, ever since I came to in defense production, I have been tracking, and we work with all the industry organizations. SIDM, of course, is a dedicated industry body for defense and aerospace, but ASSOCHAM, despite its wide range of sectors it covers, they have been super active in this area, and I would like to, at the outset, compliment them for the kind of work that they are doing. Mr. Adler from Airbus, my dear friend Jayesh, again an amazing officer, a great asset for government of Telangana, Ms. Seth from Pratt and Whitney, Mr. Purushottam. Friends, I said in the beginning that this is an extremely important topic. And I must also share with you, I am here with you after skipping half of the Indian Ocean region Defense Ministers Conclave, where I delivered the opening address, and then I came here to be able to be with you today afternoon, because I think this is one of the most crucial areas of intervention which is required in our defense and aerospace ecosystem. Today, there is a significant change in the environment as far as defense aerospace industry is concerned. There is political will from the government. There is policy framework to make that happen. And there is optimism in the industry to participate. We expect that the number of MSMEs in defense and aerospace will double in the next 5 years. That is the pace at which the number of MSMEs are today coming in the fold of defense in this sector. But I do not want to talk of defense and aerospace. But there are three crucial areas in defense and aerospace which I think require specialized attention. One is the space of aero engine. The second is space of materials. And the third is the space of electronic chips. And these are three areas in which government is willing to make a special effort, because there is recognition that these are critical areas, these are difficult areas, and will require special interventions that are beyond the normal industrial activity. In fact, for aero engine, we recognize, today, I have with me, just to give you a sense of what is a requirement, according to a study that we conducted in Ministry of Defense, we expect for defense about 5,000 aero engines in the next 15 years in defense alone. And I would expect an equal number for our civil aviation market that will be there, making the number to about 10,000 in India. This would amount, considering that aero engine comprises 25 to 30% of the cost of an aircraft, you can well imagine how big the market this would be, running into nearly $50 billion. We saw yesterday a contract for 83 LCAs being signed and handed over. In the coming years, as we are going to see more and more aircrafts being developed, the demand for aero engine is going to increase. But having said that, if you were to talk to Pratt and Whitney, you talk to GE, you talk to Rolls-Royce, you talk to any major engine supplier in the world, the kind of investments to make this happen, it is important to recognize that we are not expecting to create 3 companies of aero engine in India. But the second part is, if there is one manufacturer, how do we buy? And given our procurement procedures, questions will arise as to how can you buy from one company. To overcome any such constraint, in the defense acquisition procedure of 2020, a provision has been inserted wherein, as and when we have a domestic engine, Indian engine, that organization, whether it is in the public sector or in the private sector or in a consortium, will be treated an institution of national importance, and orders will be placed on that institution on a special basis. This is a signal for industry today that if you create engine in India, it is for the nation, and government is giving you an assurance of a clear procurement line for that engine that is produced in India. This is the first time this statement has been made. Not only statement, it has been hard-coded in the procurement Bible of defense, and therefore there is great opportunity for industry to look at it in a more serious manner. We also have been having consultations both with industry and with DRDO. Several efforts are going on today in different forums. HAL is taking its own steps. DRDO has been taking a lot of work GTRE has done over the years, and certain capabilities have been created. NAL has its own efforts that have been going on. All these efforts and others which have been going on in the industry, I think these efforts need to be brought together and synergized so that the capabilities that exist today are complement each other to create a cumulative whole and enable us to reach our goal. I think it is also important to look at how we can leapfrog or reduce the time in which our own aero engine can be created. We have to strengthen the capabilities of our academia. Today, government has encouraged creating chairs of excellence in various areas of defense and aerospace. And I would suggest that creating a chair of excellence for aero engine would be an area of tremendous relevance to our requirement as a sector. We have to work with all stakeholders who are capable of contributing this energy. And my own feeling is that ASSOCHAM's initiative, this knowledge paper which has been created on aero engine, all this will set in motion a process that will help us reach that goal. But why I said this is very important, I am not an expert in this area, but I see this as start of a very important, significant gap that we have in this sector. And this is the start of that journey. And that is why I said I would like to compliment ASSOCHAM for having chosen this extremely relevant theme in this area. Friends, all I want to say is government is willing and open to look at out-of-the-box models. We understand that this is not a straightforward task of merely doing production. We also have, as Jayesh has very rightly said, I have absolutely no doubt that we have the capabilities in the country, especially from the manufacturing perspective. I think it is the knowledge capital that needs to be created, it is the intellectual property that needs to be created, it is this that will make the difference of between having an aero engine and not having it. So my wish, if I would say, here to the industry, to the government organizations like DRDO and HAL and others who are working in this area, to the startups who are in this area, and to the academic institutions, is, I think, this is a project of national importance. Let us all come together and solve this. And on behalf of the government, I would like to assure you that we would be willing to look at various kind of options to make this happen. This is of tremendous importance. With these few words, once again, friends, thank you very much and wish you all the very best on this important task and journey that you have embarked upon. Wish you the very best. Thank you. Jai Hind.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the action-oriented vision statement from our Defense Secretary. He talked about the very active industry organization of ASSOCHAM, and it's rather super active, the crucial areas of intervention. And then he talked about the political will, he talked about the capabilities. He talked about the number of MSMEs that are going to be doubled in the next 5 years, and therefore see where he's looking at the grassroots level, where the MSMEs are going to really benefit from this entire ecosystem. He talked about 10,000 engines, 5+5, and that itself is indicative that the MOD on their own are also doing their studies and they are investing in knowledge in getting this over. Then he talked about the DAP 2020, how it actually enables and creates a statement of Aeroengines as an institution of national importance, as a project of national importance, that they want to put it on the right track and a fast track, and also a clear procurement line for somebody who wants to invest in this. He talked about the inherent strengths that we have in the DRDOs, in some of the DPSUs, private companies, and how do we leverage this, how do we synergize this. He talked about we, he never talked about I, he never talked about the government doing something, he talked about that we have to come together to do it. And he talked about the importance of academia, and that's where I told you, Swadeshe Pujyate Raja, Vidwan Sarvatra Pujyate. So it's a Vidwan, if you invest in knowledge, you will actually achieve that. And at the end of the day, he says, we are willing, think out of the box, come to us, and the government can assure you, and this is where I want to quote Lord Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita when he said, Ye yathamam prapadyante tam tatchaiva srajamyaham. Ye yathamam prapadyante, whoever in whichever way will call me, tam, to them, tam tatchaiva srajam, I will come and usi waqt, usi tarike se main prakat ho jaunga. And ladies and gentlemen, a big applaud for Dr. Ajay Kumar for such a fantastic address and being with us in spite of his heavy, busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. He has to go for another meeting of strategic importance, and I think we should honor him with another round of applause, a standing applause to Dr. Ajay Kumar.
We request everyone to please be seated. The session is going to continue. Thank you, sir. Now we'll continue with the session. I would now invite Ms. Asmita Sethi, ma'am, President and Country Head, Pratt and Whitney, United Technologies India, for sharing her thoughts on this occasion. Ma'am, please.
So thank you, ASSOCHAM, and thank you, our industry colleagues who are here in the middle of this busy schedule and, are spending their afternoon here. Some very interesting discussions went on, and especially, Secretary Ajay Kumar, he gave us a very, very heartfelt insight into, what India is looking at, which is clearly how to manufacture aero engines in India. And, I also go back to the two themes that emerged from the Raksha Mantri's speech and industry inaugural address yesterday, in which he focused on aero engines and MRO for defense production. So I'll touch upon these, I'll touch upon aero engines and the complexity of aero engine development briefly. There are a multitude of airframers, each catering to varied segments of aircraft airframing. Those are Boeing, Airbus, Embraer, Bombardier, you've heard of all those names. Engine makers are a niche group, and this is not without reason. Innovation and technology that goes into making a propulsion system is significantly advanced. So I'll talk about advanced manufacturing here, and that's what, sets the engine making industry completely aside from any other manufacturing industry. The jet engine and its components are designed to overcome the toughest of challenges and conflicting requirements. All of us who are science students, or even for who are not science students, how do we acquire that precision which is zero defect? For instance, let me give you an example. How do you stop an ice cube from melting in a furnace? That's the technology that's needed. How does an alloy of a fan blade perform in a combustor that is 200 times hotter than its own boiling point? Historically, the combustor has been one of the most difficult areas of the engine to get right. And is it possible to achieve thrust, high velocity, high fuel efficiency, and yet build a small light engine that reduces noise, that reduces carbon emissions, all at the same time? So the evolution of an engine has been to overcome challenges at every stage of achievement. And that's why we are here. It's an industry that is difficult. It's a manufacturing that's very difficult to achieve and has taken years and years to achieve. So for Pratt and Whitney, the innovation that goes into the making of an aero engine has been, game-changing. The latest engine is our geared turbofan engine, which is now powering the A320neo. It powers the A220s. It powers the E2, And if you look at this revolutionary engine, it's the architecture of the future of jet engine design. It was very disruptive. It took 20 years to develop. The cost of capital was more than $10 billion, $20 billion to achieve this. And what did Pratt and Whitney do? By inserting a gearbox between the low and high spools, we enabled the modules to run at their optimum rotational speed, reducing fuel burn, noise, and stage count. So now this engine is a completely revolutionary design, which the other engine manufacturers, they don't have that technology yet. There are thousands of components that go into working of this, So advanced manufacturing is not about, opening the 1,000 parts of an engine and putting them back together again, which some of us might think is the study of making an engine. but it's actually developing those alloys which can withstand such high levels of performance. Those take years and years and years and capital to develop, and that's why this journey is so challenging, I would say. Also, the entire ecosystem that Secretary Defense Production Support, spoke about, the academia, the R&D, the advanced manufacturing, etc., all of that, comes into play here. So the journey of a jet engine, to make this not a science topic, I would just say from design to development to production to testing to certifications to assembly to delivery, these are just a few of the stages that I can count in this journey. Pratt and Whitney has invested in modern facility now to increase productivity. It's invested in, automated factories, what we call the fourth industrial revolution factories, Industry 4.0. And
Ashmita,
Pratt and
we're
Whitney.
running short of time, please. We're running
Sorry?
short of time. We
Okay.
already exceeded our time, if you can.
Okay,
Yeah,
sorry,
thank you.
sorry. In inspection and technology for quality. So that's Factory 4.0, which we are sort of pushing. Data analytics and real-time intelligence helps us predict and prevent engine disruptions. So I'm now talking about also the MRO activity where we've invested in modern technologies. The benefits of that are cycle time reduction, increased efficiency, cost reduction, and improved flow. India has seen great progress in engine development from indigenous leaders like HAL, GTRE, etc. And, from manufacturing piston engines, they have gone up to, developing the Shakti engine for the Dhruv. There's been significant design and technology partnership between industry, academia, and, engine makers also. So I'll come to what's, quickly, what is really needed to meet our ambitions as Indians in the engine making area. We need to think entire ecosystems, Our ecosystems are in a stage of maturation, but, they need to really be world-class at this moment. So a world-class manufacturing infrastructure, advanced R&D to develop advanced materials, combustion and mechanical design, nurture innovation with our startups, have access to engineering skills and talent that we need to be able to design and develop engines of the future. So we have a big training center in Hyderabad, which is state-of-the-art and world-class. And, Secretary Jayesh Ranjan also mentioned that this world-class facility in Hyderabad actually is export-oriented. It does not just teach students in India, but across 20 countries and 30 airlines. It has completed 11,000 student
we need
days.
to wind up, please.
Okay,
We are
very
15
quickly.
minutes over because we hand over to the next association also.
Okay, right. So just to end, I think we are an industry that not only connects people, we defend democracies, or we defend freedom. The world is counting on us, and India is counting on us to develop these technologies and develop the MRO right here in India. So let's all come together as an industry and government and achieve what we are planning to do. Thank you. Sorry for taking this time, but I thought it was very important to touch
Okay.
upon the
So I have the
manufacturing.
most unpleasant task of telling our esteemed speakers to cut their time down because we are running 15 minutes late and we have to hand over this hall in time. We have the UPDA in the next. So may I request the speakers that are coming forward, if you can, finish your 15-minute speech in about a minute or so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I now invite or rather request Dr. Yashan Sridhar, Vice Chancellor, Hindustan Institute of Engineering and Science, for his address. Dr. Sridhar will join us virtually.
So, Dr. Sridhar, you got just 2 minutes, please.
Very much, sir. 2 minutes is too short a time, but anyway, let me try to put my points ahead. Thanks to ASSOCHAM for organizing this and also inviting us, and I'm representing Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science, deemed to be university from Chennai, which is a pioneer in actually, giving education in aeronautical sciences and aerospace sciences. And I heard actually Sri Jayesh Ranjan, IAS officer, who said that basically the skilled manpower requirement is high and actually the government is ready to provide that. I would like to put forth my argument here that there are only few institutions in India who are offering, the training, especially to build engines, aero engines, and of very high repute. And my suggestion basically to all the people who are here, the industries as well as the Ministry of Defense, etc., to look into this matter, and whichever the institution is coming forward to create a manpower, a skilled manpower, who can be actually an input to these institutes, the manufacturing industries, so that the dream of actually building an engine, which is highly precise, could be realized. Ashmita Sethi also, madam, actually also mentioned that it's a great challenge basically to design an engine and fabricate an engine with precision with zero defect, sorry. And I would add to that, basically, it's also required is a skilled engineers who can achieve it. And therefore you can catch them young so that they will become a very young input, a good input for the industries. Because I spent now 2 minutes, I'll hand it over to ASSOCHAM again for continuation. Thank you so much, sir, for inviting me.
So very nice, Dr. Sridhar. You could actually do it in 2 minutes. It's amazing. Like they tell in the army, 15 minute ka break, 2 minute mein khatam karke aa jao cadet. So thank you so much, sir. That's really brilliant of you, and that speaks of your academics brilliance. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Mr. Yomje Kim, President GE Aviation Korea Limited, for his address. Mr. Kim will join us through virtual mode.
So, Mr.
Hi,
Kim,
can you hear me
1.5
okay?
minutes for you.
We'll try fast. Can you hear me okay?
1.5.
Okay. All right. I'll try my best. GE having been actually a forerunner on this subject in India. We have invested close to $400 million in India to build aircraft engine manufacturing and also engineering capabilities. We have Bangalore Engineering Center, who hires more than 5,000 people, and out of that, 1,000 of them are engineers working on various R&D elements. BEC took an integral part in developing our latest technology that went into GE9X engine. We intend to utilize these experienced engineers to support India's initiative to have the self-sufficient ecosystem. Our multimodal manufacturing facility in Pune exports more than $200 million per year, which includes aero engine components. In terms of industry collaboration, we partner with many aerospace industries in India to develop capabilities together. Recently, GE is working with HAL and Tata for aero engine raw materials and key component manufacturing in India. Furthermore, we continue to work with many other industry partners in India. Utilizing these capabilities and partnership, GE intends to expand our military parts manufacturing in India as well. These commercial and military workloads will enhance India's engineering manufacturing capability, which will become a building block for self-reliant ecosystem build. In the military aero engine front, we've been supplying many different engines for Indian military, LCA Mark 1A engines, and T-700 engines for Apache and MH-60 Romeo, and CFM56 engines for Navy. This is just beginning. GE will be providing additional engines to support LCA Mark 1A. With this program, India will obtain self-reliant MRO capability to support its engines here in India. Additionally, we are committed to transfer manufacturing technology for LCA Mark II program. On this program, engines will be made here in India, and it will be manufactured up to 60% here in India, period. On the next generation fighter program, we're committed to jointly study and develop higher thrust engine with the Indian industry and the government. Again, based on the India's government's strong desire, with all the industry efforts and the manufacturing capability and the engineering capability, we believe that we'll be able to achieve Indian government's objective of having a self-reliant engine ecosystem in India. I look forward to participate a lot more activities with the partners and the Indian government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Thank you. That was brilliant. And from 60%, when are you going to make it 100% is a question I want you to think over and probably find an opportunity to answer. Yes. Whom are we having next? That's just 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. Now we request Mr. Laurie Alder, Head of Customer Services, Airbus India and South Asia, for sharing his thoughts. Thank you.
So 1 minute, sir. 1 minute. Yes.
It might be 3.
All yours.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Isn't it great to be back at an air show, at least for those of you who are here? This is just wonderful. The year we left behind was awful. The industry was in great trouble, but didn't we show resilience? Didn't we show working together? And now we are face to face. This is just great. Never lose hope, never give up. We're making it. Friends, the government this week, they unveiled the new budget for 21-22. And its proposals have generated many, many expectations. And I hear again here today many more expectations. And this is great. This new budget will kickstart the process of recovery. This recovery, this post-COVID recovery, we're all waiting for. It's coming. The vaccines are coming. That will be a massive boost in the arm for our industry. India is a young nation. It's an aspiring nation. It's a nation of creative, energetic, and eager minds in the young people with its immense talent pool and competitive human resource. It's better placed than many, many others, not just to participate in the future, but to shape the future and shape it and do these new things. Do what we've been hearing about this afternoon in the Aeroengines. Shape it, not just do it, go. Airbus itself, I'm happy to say we've signed 3 agreements, or we are signing 3 agreements here at Aero India with Indian companies. With GMR, to look into the into the MRO sector and the airport sector. With Flytech, Aviation Academy for drones. This is a new part of the industry for training. We need 2 million drone pilots over the next 5 years. And also with a startup, Hyperverge, here based in Bangalore, working with One Atlas, which is the aerospace geospatial platform for using artificial intelligence. Indian partners and foreign OEMs all have a long history of collaboration, and it's been a win-win for both. And working together more closely than ever in areas it's going to shape the future. Let me give you an example. Just some months ago, Airbus announced the development of hydrogen zero-emission fueled aircraft. By 2035, we hope to be first to market with a totally green aircraft. Indian technological minds can participate in this. Airbus's relation ourselves, we go back 50 years of partnering in India in all the scope, in IT and engineering. And it's not just a market, India, for Airbus. India is a core. It's our core engineering center here in Bengaluru. Procurement, we procure $650 million of equipment from India per year. Now we're doing more. Oh, by the way, and this is not because of offsets. We do this procurement, $650 million, because it makes sense. There's no obligation. Now we've offered to set up the final assembly line for the C295 with Tata. We're offering to set up the final assembly line for helicopters with Mahindra for the NUH, Naval Utility Helicopter. Airbus has strong affinities in India, and we're keen to weave our destinies together. Airbus is not an engine manufacturer, so I'm sorry I can't talk about engine partnering. But you know, Airbus is joined at the hip to the engine manufacturers because without engines, none of our machines can fly. So we have a common interest. And I hope that some of the examples of what I've very briefly talked about, I could talk for another half hour if you want, about what we do with Indian companies, but you won't let me, I don't think, no? Okay. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. Thank you. That was really brilliant. 2 minutes and 45 seconds. That's very good. So the next speaker, whoever it is, just 45 seconds. Okay.
So the next speaker is Colonel K.V. Kuber. I request you to please propose the vote of thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been a fantastic audience. I should thank Kishore Jairaman, who's not here with us. But I think Anuja is representing him, but I don't think you want to speak. You want to say something about engines? But Rolls-Royce is doing a great job. We've heard GE, we've heard the platform guys, Boeing and Airbus, and I think we have heard the policy perspective. You've been a fantastic audience. They have been fantastic speakers, because if there is nobody to listen to, who's going to speak? And therefore, Yatha Raja Tata Praja. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. And I'll conclude in about 15 seconds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now we're commencing with our next session, which is on Uttar Pradesh Defence Industrial Corridor, a new era of aerospace and defence manufacturing for Aatmanirbhar Bharat. I request our guests and dignitaries please to take their respective seats. To commence with the seminar proceedings, may I take this opportunity to invite the dignitaries of the seminar on dais, please. Shri Ravindra Godbole, IS, retired Nodal Officer, Uttar Pradesh Expressways Industrial Development Authority. Dr. S.C. Kansal, Co-Chairman, ASSOCHAM, National Council on Defence and Aerospace. Shri Sachin Agarwal, Managing Director, PTC Industries. Shri Ashish Kansal, Executive Director, SMPP Private Limited. Lieutenant General Sanjay Verma, ex-DGWE, Advisor, DRDO, India. This is once again your host, J.R. Mahapatra from BML. I welcome you all to the Aero India 2021 and the seminar on UPDIC, New Era of Aerospace and Defence Manufacturing for Aatmanirbhar Bharat. The Aatmanirbhar Bharat initiative. I request our guests to please take their seats. The Aatmanirbhar Bharat initiative by the government is focused on self-reliance and increased defence production in all domains. To enhance defence production capabilities, the Government of India established an industrial corridor in Uttar Pradesh with 6 districts, namely Agra, Aligarh, Chitrakoot, Jhansi, Kanpur, and Lucknow. Uttar Pradesh is the 4th largest state in India and the 3rd largest economy within the country. Uttar Pradesh Defence Industrial Corridor, also known as UPDIC, is an aspirational project that intends to reduce foreign dependency of Indian aerospace and defence sector and has plethora of opportunities. In the seminar today, themed on Uttar Pradesh Defence Industrial Corridor, New Era of Aerospace and Defence Manufacturing for Aatmanirbhar Bharat, we will get an opportunity to understand the possibilities on the subject from the eminent personalities from the domain and industry expert. We shall now proceed with the proceedings of the session. I now invite Dr. S.C. Kansal, Co-Chairman, ASSOCHAM, National Council on Aerospace and Defence, for his welcome address. Sir, please.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I got a great opportunity of welcoming the audience. It's a great pleasure for me. On behalf of ASSOCHAM, I take the honor of welcoming Colonel Kuber, Shri Godwale ji, Mr. Sachin Agarwal, Mr. Ashish Kansal. Of course, I was prepared to welcome our Honorable Minister, Sri Satish Mahana ji. Unfortunately, I'm not able to see it. Mr. Sanjay Jaju, Additional Secretary, Minister of Defense, Government of India. Unfortunately, he is not here. He was supposed to be here. Anyhow, being the time being very short, already Colonel Kuber has given red signals to everybody, so I'm scared I may not get the one. And more so, of course, we have to hand over the hall at 4 p.m. to our next session. I have simply to say the very subject of today is that UP Defense Industrial Corridor, of course. The very heading says the new era of defense and aerospace manufacturing for Aatmanirbhar Bharat. It is a fact. It is a fact. In this regard, I would like to welcome the honorable speakers and the audience and the gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen and the officers from the UP government, UPIDA. Uttar Pradesh Defense Corridor will provide a great impetus to the defense manufacturing and will play a significant role in the industrial development of our country by simultaneously improving the economy and job allocations. Affordable cost of land and reasonable wage rate with adequate resource of skilled and semi-skilled power makes Uttar Pradesh Defense Industrial Corridor a very attractive option and will for sure serve as a propel for economic development and growth of the state and the nation as a whole, especially for the MSMEs who will be getting some of the infrastructure which they cannot afford. There will be great impetus for the MSMEs for the UP Industrial Corridor. There are industrial corridors. The government has announced that Chennai and UP. Today we are discussing the UP corridor. The officers and the government as a whole is sitting in HL in this conference for signing all various MOUs. My company will be signing 3 MOUs rather will be signing. It's a great opportunity for all of us. The defense corridor will ultimately help in realizing the Ek Bharat, Shrasth Bharat dream of our Honorable Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji. I would like to conclude my vote of thanks, welcome, by saying I therefore look forward to a very informative session through the knowledge of some very distinguished speakers who are the experts of defense production and also the wisdom of other dignitaries who are the backbone for the industry and the government officers who are the backbone for the development of the industry in India and in the UP, of course. I look forward to a successful and meaningful Aatmanirbhar session. Thank you. Jai Hind. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Due to paucity of time, now I would pass on the dais to Colonel K.V. Kuber, Director, Aerospace and Defense, Ernst & Young member and member ASSOCHAM, for moderating the session further. Please, sir.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm playing the strategic card. That is, I'm going to stand here. By standing here, so you're going to speak from there. So we want to cut short in time because we have to hand over this hall in exactly 20 minutes from now. UP, may I invite Abhishek Verma to please come onto the stage and Mr. Ashish Chand, the additional CEO, to also please come onto the stage, sir. Please come because this is a very interesting thing that we have been doing. And out there in UP, KPMG has been doing a great job. And they have been interacting with the UP government and bringing in the investments. Today we are talking about something like an announced investment of 3,700 crores. There may be more. in the pipeline, and with all the good things that are happening in UP. So, may I ask, Abhishek, let's start with you. If you were to give me 3 factors on which people should come into UP, what would those 3 things be?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Colonel Kubey. So I would say, before coming to this seminar, I was just thinking, what are the successful parameters of a defense, or say any manufacturing cluster? There are 3 to 4 key parameters what we think are very important for any cluster to become successful. First, I am sure the audience would agree with me, and it's of paramount importance is infrastructure. Second, I would say the existing industrial base. Third, again, which is very relevant in today's time, is ease of doing business, that how easy for companies to do business. And lastly, I would also say equally important is the existing skilled manpower which is available. So in terms of infrastructure, if you see in UP Defense Corridor, what we see is UP is sitting pretty in the Golden Quadrilateral. There are 2 dedicated freight corridors. The western one from Dadri to JNPT, and from Ludhiana, the eastern one which goes up to West Bengal. Out of both of them crisscross in Dadri, giving an excellent space for becoming a logistics and transport hub. And almost 57% of it runs through UP. So UP has that advantage. UP has country's first inland waterways running through it. The corridor itself is interspersed with very good, excellent world-class expressways. We see Agra, Lucknow. There's an extension going up to Gorakhpur, the Purvanchal. And there's one coming down south, the Bundelkhand Expressway. So these infrastructure components in the corridor are very important, which we see most of it is done, rest is on the way. Coming to the industrial base, UP has almost 89 lakh MSMEs base. And when we started working with UP Defense Corridor around a year back, so when we are conceptualizing that how the corridor can be set up, we realized that this MSME base is going to be the key driving factor for the corridor. And we see them very strongly interspersed along the nodes. And we see a lot of interest from these MSMEs to diversify into defense. And that's where the key activity in defense corridor today is the main excitement which is coming in the corridor. Coming to ease of doing business, UP has its own Nivesh Mitra. The corridor also has put up its single window. So those kinds of facilities are there. And skilled manpower, yes, that's a challenge. The government is working towards it. There is a project to upgrade the ITIs, set up common facilitation centers. So with all those components, I believe UP Defense Corridor is ideally placed and is on the right track to take off. Thank you.
That's very nice, Abhishek. I mean, it'll be very rare for to praise the competition, but I must say that KPMG is doing a great job, and that's because of Abhishek Verma's vision and the way he's going about it. And I mean, it's a pleasure listening to you, Abhishek. I want to talk about this company which is in UP called PTC Industries, and they're coming in a very big way in terms of establishing facilities and taking it forward. So I want to ask you, Sachin Agarwal, I want to ask you, has the UP government delivered on the promises that were made when you established your PTC Industries in UP? Obviously, you'll say yes, but I want you to substantiate it.
Hello. Okay, good. Thank you very much for the question. Actually, a bit unprepared for that because I was supposed to make a presentation. Yes, I would certainly say so, that UP has delivered and continues to deliver. And as far as saying to substantiate, I can give a couple of examples.
You should.
So one of the issues that we were having in UP, so we have set up a plant for 270 crores for aerospace and defense manufacturing, and we started during COVID another project where we're investing additional 230 crores for advanced manufacturing of, I was listening to the previous speakers talk about criticality for aero engines. So we are into manufacturing of titanium casting and superalloy castings parts for all aircraft components, and including aero engines, and we are bringing in a technology for single crystal control microstructure castings as well. So these are all many things that happen. We brought in 20 technologies into the country under a single roof, which are exclusive to us, hot isostatic pressing. You name it, we have it. And it is a state-of-the-art infrastructure along with advanced manufacturing, AI, robotics, everything. So that's the background behind it. However, to answer your question, just to give you an example, so when we bought a piece of land or a big chunk of land over there to set up the plant, there were certain bits of those lands which were what you call a Gram Samaj land, or they were owned, there was no owner, the village owned it or the Gram Samaj owned it. And there was no procedure as such at that point of time to figure out how to transfer it. We approached the government immediately started working on it and came out with a procedure. Then in the procedure, there was a problem related to exchange of land from some other village or some other association. They went in, based on the suggestion by the members of the association, they were able to come out with an amendment within a couple of months and implement it right away. So the point I'm trying to make is that the biggest change and the biggest thing that an industry looks for, besides the things mentioned by Sir over there, besides that is a government which is ready and open and listening to the industry. So they take the feedback and act on it. So it's because nothing is permanent. The moment you keep on going more forward, you'll find more and more issues. And if the government is open to listening and is taking that feedback from the industry and doing something about it, and in a shorter period of time, there's nothing like it. So that's why going from a 270 crore investment to a 500 crore investment over a period of 2 to 3 years, we have been able to take that step.
Oh, that's fantastic. So you see, it's always good to praise somebody on their back. And I must tell you that Mr. Satish Mahana, the Industries Minister, the Honorable Minister of Industries in UP, pretty proactive, along with a fantastic team that he's got. The ACO is here, the additional CEO is here, but he's not going to speak because he's a man of few words. Few words, more action. And that's what he believes, and I had a lot of interaction with him in the initial days when we were running up to this entire concept of corridors, and I know that he actually does that. We also have MKU. I see Rajesh sitting there, and I see MKU, and I see these companies which are heavily invested, and today they're exporting to more than about 50 countries. They're looking at more than 200 crores in exports. All that cannot happen only by yourself. Well, there is an upbringing, there is a hand-holding, and I think the government is doing extremely well. So, before I come to Dr. Godbole, so I want to again pick Abhishek to ask him, do you think these corridors are necessary? And if they are necessary, what do you think should be the action plan to realize the benefits that we have been thinking that will come out of these corridors?
I mean, right, if you see Colonel Kuber, all over the world, the success of manufacturing cluster has been replicated. If you see, whether it is Singapore or whether it is Detroit, the manufacturing clusters, what they provide certain common facilities to the industry, especially bringing the MSMEs up to the required level, giving them adequate platform to upgrade their skills, do certification, testing requirements, and those are the kind of facilities it's easier to construct and promulgate in a corridors type of environment. There's also, I mean, I would love to give you an interesting example from the city where I stay, and obviously it has to be Bollywood. So in Bollywood, there are very high-end back-end work which is carried on in Mumbai. And you will be surprised if you walk into those companies. I have personally gone there on a different project. Whether it is the latest Bollywood movie Tenet or other, entire back-end work happens in 2 to 3 companies spread over Andheri. They do what is called digitization, correction, restoration of movies. The landing of moon was NASA sent it to Mumbai to a company which I know for restoration. I was talking to this company and I asked them, you know, there's a lot of talk about going to UP. Why can't you shift to UP? You'll get bigger space, you'll get all of incentives. They said, sir, only one reason. The people we employ are not software designers or software developers. Although they do everything on software, they're called artists, because the movie has to be, you know, restored, repaired. There has to be sense of art in that guy. And they said all our technical skilled manpower resides here within 5 kilometers of Andheri. He said we cannot move without them. So that's very important point. I'll come back to you. The question is about the corridor again. So setting up a cluster or a corridor environment also gets you the skilled manpower in a concentrated manner where industries can utilize them. They are fungible, they move across. So one thing is common facilities, another thing is the skilled manpower. And that is absolutely irrepressible for a specialized industry like defense. So, I mean, those are two important things I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek. That was nice. Do you also want to give a presentation?
I was supposed to cover around 5 minutes on the UP Defence Corridor, but
we are just that there is a challenge of time, but if you insist, then I can step down.
Okay, I'll just take 2-3 minutes. I'll show you the slides about the nodes and the infrastructure which I was talking about. If you can put up the slides, I'll just...
So, ladies and gentlemen, what I will do is, from here on, we go on to the presentation mode, and we'll have Abhishek, and then we'll have, Mr. Godbole and Chitra Kadam. So we're going to have 3 presentations, and therefore I step down, and I hand it over back to, because I thought I'll get a competition between IIT Powai and IIT Delhi, the father and son sitting there. But then, you know, I think I'll leave the stage back to you, Mahapatra, all yours. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Now I request Major Abhishek Verma, Partner Aerospace and Defense KPMG India, to please proceed with the presentation. Mr. Sachin Agarwal will be leaving us for another appointment. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Should I come later? No? Can you? Okay, it's already there. Right. Right, okay. Thank you, everyone. I mean, you already know my name. I'm a partner with KPMG's Aerospace and Defense Practice. And I would be giving you a small overview about UP Defense Corridor. And I would be covering that what are the key features in UP Defense Corridor, how it is structured, what are the benefits which are being extended to the industry, what are the key infrastructure components, and finally the status, you know, which all of you would like to know, that where we are today in terms of our past 2 to 3 years of journey. So let me just begin by saying thanks to ASSOCHAM for giving us this opportunity to present. And very importantly, before I start, you know, I would like to say that UP Defense Corridor was envisaged by the Honorable Prime Minister in 2018's UP Investor Summit in February. And since then, the journey, I would say, for the nature of the project, a complex project involving land acquisition, multiple stakeholders, a green field in nature, the project has reasonably progressed well. Today, we are sitting where we have acquired more than 92% of identified land. There are 44 MOUs which have already been signed, and infrastructure is the next focus area which is being developed. Sorry, I'm using the word we because as KPMG, we have the privilege, and I would thank UPADA to provide us the opportunity to support the corridor. So before I begin, I would just like to thank some of the key members who have been driving this corridor, without whose mention it would be not appropriate for me to go into the details. So in UP, the corridor itself is being driven by Honorable Chief Minister Shri Yogi Adityanath ji, along with Mr. Satish Mahana, who is the Industries Minister. And in UPADA, which is the nodal agency for driving the corridor, it is headed by Shri Avnish Avasthi, who is one of the most senior bureaucrats in UP, and that shows the seriousness which government of UP accords to the corridor. So, as part of UPADA team, we have Shri Ravin Godbole here, Shri Shirish Chand Verma, Colonel Tyagi, Mr. R.B. Sharma, Mr. B.B. Singh as part of the key team. And we also have a small KPMG team which has been supporting the corridor from day one. And as partner in KPMG, I can safely say that, both in KPMG India as well as globally, we are incredibly proud of the work this team is doing for the corridor. So coming on to the key features of the corridor, if I'll just use, Okay. Okay, I'll skip this and I'll come straight to the point. Okay, UP Defence Corridor is, as you can see, is structured around these 6 nodes. So if I go from north to south, Aligarh, Agra, Jhansi, the twin cities of Lucknow and Kanpur, and Chitrakoot. So some of the key infrastructure components which I had earlier covered in a question which I answered from Colonel Kuber, let us see how they transpose onto the map of the corridor. So you can see the Aligarh node is going to be very well served by Jewar International Airport, and let me tell you, is going to be the boon for corridor. It's going to be a magnet and attract a lot of MSMEs. We are already seeing a lot of excitement around the airport area. Agra has a functional airport, so I'm just talking in terms of the air connectivity. Jhansi, again, airport is proposed. Kanpur, functional airport. Agra, I think I already covered a functional airport. Chitrakoot proposed. Prayagraj is proposed. Varanasi, a functional international airport. Gorakhpur, again an airport. Also, there are talks to make it international because a large diaspora works in the Middle East, goes from there. Lucknow, we all know about it. So UP otherwise has 7 airports, including 2 international airports. So corridor is very well connected with air connectivity. Coming to the highways, I already mentioned earlier, large part of eastern dedicated freight corridor moves through UP. Inland waterways is from Haldia up to Prayagraj through Varanasi. Interestingly, the largest road network in the country is in UP, almost 4 lakh kilometers. The largest rail network is in UP, which is almost 9 lakh kilometers. And I'm not even going to the macro parameters. These are just hard infrastructure data points. So UP is very well served by infrastructure. These 2 intersecting expressways, when they are fully functional, they provide very well connectivity. They'll move through the corridor, and industry will have excellent connectivity to move their goods and services. Okay. So going ahead, these are some of the macro parameters already mentioned. UP is almost 17% of the population of the country lives in UP. It's been contributing almost 8% of the GDP of the country, and almost growing at a CAGR of 7% for last 3 to 4 years. EODB it's as I mentioned earlier, it's been ranked 2nd this time, and it's been doing very well on an average in last 3 to 4 years. So let me just briefly cover for you the incentives which are being offered as part of the UP Defence Corridor. There's a land subsidy on the gross selling price, almost 25%. There are other, for example, for all public sector units, there will be, a land will be provided on a lease level, capital subsidy on fixed assets. Important thing is common facilitation centers. So UP is very keen on setting up of common facilitation centers because it realizes these are the facilities which MSMEs require, and they need to be really, we need to really do a lot of hand holding in terms of making prototypes, testing them, certification, marketing, and then taking them through the defense procurement process. So the state has decided to even give land on a promotional basis for CFCs. And there is always a talk, some of the top international firms have already come and expressed their interest for setting up of CFCs. Again, there are more subsidies on setting up of your effluent treatment plant, the transfer of technology which an anchor defense unit comes and gives to its vendors. Obviously, there are upper limits to it, but yes, these are the subsidies available to everyone. There's a startup fund which UP government is trying to promote. Skill development, again, to some extent, the cost of skilling your manpower is borne by the state. And there's a grant for setting up of defense parks and CFCs. There are special benefits also to some regions like Bundelkhand. And that's where we are seeing some interest from industry around the Jhansi node. Yeah. Again, some more incentives and assistance in terms of reimbursement for the quality certification which you would do if you set up a plant. Stamp duty is 100% exempted in this. And the most important point is the mega anchor A&D units, which are going to invest more than 1,000 crores, will be given incentives on a case-to-case basis. So you can really come and sit across the table and government will give you additional incentive, whichever are applicable. Yeah. Right. So these are the highlights that where the corridor is in terms of the progress which it has made so far. So as I earlier said, the corridor wants to almost acquire 5,000 hectares of land, out of which around 1,500 has been identified. And if I remember the correct figure, is 1,375 hectares which has already been acquired as we speak. So apart from the 44 MOUs which I said, there are 6 MOUs from the institutional organizations like the IITs, DRDOs, Indian Navy, which give immense opportunities for MSMEs to get directly in touch with the buyer and then understand what are their buying requirements, indigenization requirements, and then develop the products accordingly. Yeah, and DRDO is also interested in setting up a CFC in Lucknow. And the last point is defense testing infrastructure. As we all know, MOD has come out with a defense testing infrastructure scheme in which MOD is allowing a JV of 5 players. 1 player will be a state partner to set up testing infrastructure. MOD is going to fund it for initial 8 labs. So there's immense interest around setting up of testing facilities. And I believe the corridor itself is sending a proposal to MOD to set up the first facilities in the corridor. Yeah. Right, so with this, I come to an end of giving you a brief overview on the defense corridor. And I hope it's been helpful. Maybe it has been helpful in changing perception of some of you about the corridor and UP and its potential. Right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Dr. Chitra Kadam, Vice President, Anchor Research Labs, to address the gathering. Thank you.
Thank you for the introduction. A very good evening to all the dignitaries present here today. Let me take you back to the year 2012, the year which my company, Anchor Research Labs, was born. Born with a twinkle in our eyes, smile on our face, and Josh in our heart. Incidentally, it was the same year that the doomsday prophets had predicted the end of the world. And today, here we are, some 9 years later, on the path of success that we had envisioned. And the future looks bright not only for us, but thousands of small companies involved in the defense and aerospace domains. The overwhelming participation of MSMEs in this very event bears the testimony to the fact that the Indian MSME in defense sector is now a confident and credible force to reckon with. Well, it has been a great journey full of ups and downs, and during our small little run-up, we have observed the changing face of the MSME ecosystem in India, especially the aerospace and defense sector. Initially, as we set out to make a difference and mark an identity, we felt that we were born into an environment of surrogacy, with no hand-holding and no support system. As a startup, it felt that we were left out on the streets to fend for ourselves. And we spent years in lurch due to lack of opportunities. But But gradually, we started moving towards legitimacy and recognition with our persistent efforts and support from policy initiatives to promote Make in India in defense sector. We value all the support that we have got in emerging as a reliable company. The banks came forward to support us with CGT MSE loan for 2 crores. The state promoted us with the new initiatives to provide a level playing field to MSMEs in defense industry. Our customers were brave enough to place their trust in us and gave us a multi-crore project. Now, as a flag bearer of Make in India tag, we are gradually chipping away the negative connotations around indigenization. As MSME, we understand our responsibility towards creating world-class systems for defense applications. Aatmanirbhar Bharat is not just a slogan for us, it's a mission for us. Working in consonance with our big brothers in defense sector, we are confident of achieving Aatmanirbharta in defense technologies in India. Through cutting-edge research and development, we have indigenously developed some highly advanced electronic warfare and communication intelligence systems to meet the specific requirements of defense and aerospace sector. We are proud that our world-class systems are currently serving as unflinching sentinels at inhabitable remote locations guarding the borders of our country. Among numerous policy initiatives, defense industrial corridors are great enablers in creating a niche for MSMEs in defense production. UPDIC, planned across 6 nodes, is aimed at mobilizing MSME ecosystem in the state and developing export-oriented manufacturing base for defense sector. Anchor Research Labs is set to establish an ultra-modern, comprehensive manufacturing complex spread across 25 acres of land within Aligarh node of UPDIC. This defense manufacturing facility will yield multiple product lines and complex systems for defense and aerospace sector. Over years, MSMEs have also evolved in their thought and moved from the trader mindset to the creator approach. Today, MSMEs possess the domain knowledge, dynamic thinking, agility, and focus to research, design, develop, and manufacture in India. With policy initiatives creating an enabling environment, the MSMEs can create a sustainable defense industry with thrust on indigenous manufacturing. Together, we can not only make India self-reliant in defense technologies, but also create a path for making India a defense exporter to friendly countries. I would like to thank UPIDA team, ASSOCHAM, and the organizers of Aero India 2021 for giving us an opportunity to share our story. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the nice presentation. Now I request Shri Samir Joshi, CEO, New Space Technologies, to please come on the dais and share his thoughts. Thank you, sir.
Can you load the presentation, please? Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable delegates. So this is the peril of being the last speaker, especially when you're running out of time. I'll just take 2-3 minutes. New Space Research and Technologies is a startup based out of Bangalore, but recently has become part of UPDIC. I will just cover 2-3 core slides, how we think we're going to proliferate in the coming days. So this is the overview. We are about a 100+ company based out of Bangalore. We focus on something called NGM&T, Next Generation Missions and Technologies. We are aiming for what our country needs about 3 to 5 years away. We are aiming for product development and technologies which are running parallel to core high-tech cutting-edge research across the world. And towards this, I'll just brief you. We commenced operations in 2008, January. Team heritage is in there in space systems, air combat and UAV systems. We are engaged with Indian MOD, civilian agencies, already generated 2 million revenue from indigenous products this year, and looking forward to about 10 million of revenue next year. We are right now housed in Noida, which is a registered office, but core work is happening in aerospace systems in Bangalore. We have the autonomous systems in New Delhi, and we have a composite manufacturing at Bangalore. We hope to set up a manufacturing unit in the Aligarh corridor, and this is where the future we definitely want to lift up. Aim is again embrace open innovation, achieve incremental disruptive changes, make crossroad industry collaboration. That's how I think we all will grow together. And UPDIC provides a very good opportunity for us to engage with certain partners. Also, whatever available assets, it's not that a company like us can scale up overnight. So we have to work together. Leverage GOI's various policies, and last but not the least, focus on the 3 T's, the team, technology, and the target user. We are very happy to say in all product development, all our targeted end users are already involved. And I'll just cover them briefly. We are focusing on unmanned air systems and collective robotics. Collective robotics is swarm robotics. Towards this, we are also building up a certain level of technologies in the GPS-denied ops, swarming man-unmanned teaming, augmented virtual reality, and pure artificial intelligence-based algorithms towards air combat, towards operations in the air of UCAVs. This is a company vision. Till 2020, we were aiming for intelligent UAVs. We have achieved this right on the dot. The end users are engaged with us. Till 2025, we are aiming for robotic swarms. They can be ground-based, they can be airborne, and of course, aiming for unmanned wingmen by about 2030, all accelerated by artificial intelligence. Our product development portfolio presently includes the high-altitude pseudo-satellite UAV. We are working with Hindustan Aeronautics on this, and we will be getting our first project from IDEX, that is the MOD, which will be announced tomorrow. We are also working on the air-launched flexible asset swarming unmanned air system. Again, you will see this deployed in the HAL stall, along with the wingman, again with HAL. We are also working on this component with the Air Force Research Lab in the USA, on same towards the need for the US Air Force. Towards also multi-copter swarm-based drone solutions. You must have seen swarming drones on the Army Day. That was the work by New Space Research. Then, of course, fixed-wing swarm drones. We are working with the Air Force in the Meher Baba Prize, and collaborative man-unmanned teaming, artificial intelligence algorithms, and air-to-air and air-to-ground combat implementation. These are the partners. Right now, we are embedded with Surrey Satellite and Research in the UK, Boeing in the US, National Aerospace Lab, Hindustan Aeronautics, Air Force Research Lab, and BEL. So what we are aiming, you see this photograph, at least 2 of our products are embedded in this photo. But where it is all leading to, the core thing which I end up now is that if we get support, the right impetus from an environment, just the way UPDIC is aiming for, I think all our effort will actually be accelerated in the right direction. So I'll thank UPDIC for accommodating us in this very core essential corridor. We look forward to scaling our operations, looking forward to manufacturing next year onwards. I'll close that our company is well on track, and hopefully we will see some revenues generated as part of Aatmanirbhar Bharat. And for that, I'm again going to end my note by saying a thank you to all those powers and be. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I request Shri Ravindra Godbole, retired IAS, Nodal Officer, Uttar Pradesh Expressways Industrial Development Authority, to kindly share his thoughts on this occasion.
Good evening. Mr. Abhishek Verma has covered almost every detail about this prestigious project. We have short of time, so we as a government really look forward to this development, and we assure that our policies, our supportive view towards businesses, startups, MSMEs, which we feel are the backbone of cluster development. So Uttar Pradesh welcomes one and all who dream to be part of Indian defense industries and our Uttar Pradesh Defense Industrial Corridor. With this, I would like to thank you all for attending this session, and to the team of ASSOCHAM and organizing this seminar. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. With this, we have come to the end of the seminar. Thank you very much for joining us. I wish you all a very good day and great health. Thank you. Jai Hind. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have another session, the next session on from FICCI. This is on convergence of civil and defense MRO. Thank you very much, sir. So I request you to please take your seats. We are going to commence the session shortly.